Ruchim ha'boim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem on Daf Lamed Aleph, Amud Aleph, the last 4 lines. The Gemara previously discusses various halachos in regards to tefillah. Amongst those halachos, we learn from Chana that a person is not to make his words overheard when he says tefillah. He should allow his words to be heard to his own ears, but not to somebody else's ears. In the beginning of the parak, the Gemara want to find the source for where we know a person should daven with koived rosh, and tried to bring Chana as an example, and said, no, she was maras nafsha, she was exceedingly bittered in her spirit, and therefore you cannot bring a proof from her that the way to daven was with koived rosh. She was exceptional. However, with other halachos, it's applicable to everybody, and therefore the Gemara learns out from Chana these halachos. Says the Gemara, Omer Rav Hamnuna, Kame Hilchasa Gavrasa Ika Lemashma Mahani Kroi Dechana. How many big halachos are we to learn from the psukim that Chana davened when she was coming to the Mishkan in Shiloh in order to then pour out her heart to Hashem? V'Chana hi medaberes al liba, and Chana, the pasuk says, spoke al liba. Says the Gemara, Mikan lihis palil tzorich sheyichavein libo. From here we learn out a person has to daven with kavanas halev. Rak svaseh noos. Only her lips moved. Says the Gemara, Mikan lihis palil sheyachtoich besvasav. It's not sufficient for a person just to meditate alone. A person has to express the words. V'koile lo yishomeya. And the voice, her voice was not heard. Mikan she'osa lagbiya koilo b'tfilasoi. That's what we mentioned before, that a person should not raise his voice in tefillah out loud. Vayachshaveho Eli lishikara, and Eli considered her to be somebody who was shikur, somebody who was a drunkard. Mikan sheshikar osir lihispalo. From here we learn out that a shikar is osir to daven. A person who drinks a revis of yayin, it's also for him to daven. If he drinks more than that, and he's not able to speak to before the king in tefillah, then his tefillah is to'eva. Vayomer elea Eli ad mosai tishtakrun. Eli says to her, until when are you going to continue to then come here and be drunk? Omrav elozim mikan leroi bechaveiroi. If a person sees something that's not hagun in somebody else, he has to let him know and give him toichacha. Aside from the mitzvah deraisa on things that might be an infraction on a Torah requirement, and therefore it says hoichiach toichiach es hamisecha. Even when the davar she'eino hagun, a person must also give toichacha. Now the pasuk says, I'll read the pasuk in its totality. Vatan Chana vatoimer loy adoni isha kishas ruach anoichi v'yayim v'sheichar loy shasisi v'eshpoich es nafshi lifnei Hashem. Says the Gemara to darshan this pasuk. Vatan Chana vatoimer loy adoni Omar Ula v'iteimo Rabbi Yosi Rabbi Chanina Omar lei loy adoin ato b'dover zeh. You're not a master in this area. You're making a mistake. Lo ruach hakodesh shoyra alecho. She'ata choshdeni b'davar zeh, because you suspect me in this matter of being a drunkard. Ike da'amre, there are those that say, hochi amra lei. This is what she was saying to him, b'loshen bitmiya, with a wonderment. Loy adon ato, are you not a adon, a master? That lav ike shechina v'ruach hakodesh gaboch, that you should be a tzaddik, that the Shechina should rest and you should have Ruach HaKodesh. And yet, shedantani lekav choiva, v'lo dantani lekav zechus, you judge me in a side of choiv and not on the side of merit. And secondly, umila yodat, the isha keshes Ruach Anochi, and obviously you don't have Ruach HaKodesh because you're making a mistake. You don't realize that I'm a woman who is in a despair situation. V'yayim v'sheichar loy shasisi, the pasuk says, I didn't drink not old wine and not new wine. Omar Rabbi Elozar mikan lenechshad b'dovar she'ein boy shetzorich lodio. From here we learn that a person who is suspected of something must let the person that is suspecting him know that he is clean. And therefore, like it says, if it's a Torah infraction and he's suspecting of something that's an infraction of the Torah, then it says v'yisem nikim. But even if it's something that's not hagun, a person should let the person who is suspecting him, let him know that it's not correct. Says the pasuk, Al titen es amosecha lifnei bas blial. Don't give me your handmaid in front of a bas blial. Om Rabbi Elazar mikan leshikor shemispalo ki'ilu oived avodah zora, as if the one who is drunk and davens as if that person is being oived avodah zora. When a person is drunk, their mind is certainly mixed up, and sometimes they can be with a kafira, they can be koifer in the truth, and they can be moideh on the sheker. Gemara now proves this from the following verses: Ksiv hacha lifnei bas blial, v'ksiv hasam yetze anoshim b'nei blial mikirbecha. It says over here by Chana bas blial, and it says by Ir hanidachas the same lashon of b'nei blial. They'll try to get people to then take them away from you and serve avodah zara. Ma lahalon avodah zara by Ir hanidachas. Afkan avodah zara. So too over here, it's referring to avodah zara. The pasuk says, and I want to read this also in its entirety. Vaya'an Eli vayomer lechi leshalom velokei Yisrael yitein es she'elaseich asher sha'alt me'imoy. Says the pasuk from the beginning. Vaya'an Eli vayomer lechi leshalom. Eli answered her when he realized he made a mistake, and he said lechi leshalom. Go leshalom. Omer Rabbi Elazar mikan lechoyshed es chaveroi bedavar she'ein boy shetzorich lefaisoi. He must appease that person. V'lo od, and not only that, ela shetzorich libarchoi, also has to bless him. Shneimar says velokei Yisrael yitein es shalaseich. Now over here, where do we see that indeed lechi leshalom is a piyus, that he was coming to appease her with these words? When a person says goodbye to somebody, the way to say goodbye is lech leshalom or lechi leshalom. So here it's explained that because it was out of order. First, Eli said to Chana, lechi leshalom, and then he gave her the bracha. Normally you say the last thing before saying goodbye to somebody is lechi leshalom. So lechi leshalom over here is a piyus. Afterwards, he gave her a bracha. V'lokei Yisrael yitin es she'elaseich. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you your bakasha, and you will have a child. The pasuk says, "Vatider neder v'tomer Hashem tzvokos." HaKadosh Baruch Hu, she says, Chana, she made a neder that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem tzvokos. She calls Hashem as Hashem tzvokos, with the title of Hashem tzvokos. Omer Rabbi Elazar miyom sheba HaKadosh Baruch Hu es oilomo lo haya adam shekaro l'HaKadosh Baruch Hu tzvokos asher basa Chana v'karoso tzvokos. There was nobody in the world before Chana who referred to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as the title of Hashem Tzvokos. Omra Chana lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chana said before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono shel olam, mikol tzivei tzvokos shebarasa ba'olamcha, kosher beinecha shetiten li ben echad. From all of the different types of creations, all of the armies of the world that you make up in the upper hemispheres and all over the world, it's not possible for you to give me one child. Mashal lema davar doime. It's a mashal compared to the following: Lamelech basar vadom she'osa su'udoso la'avadav. He makes a king for his servants. Bo ani echad v'omar ala pesach. A poor person comes to the doorway of this great big su'udah. Omar lehem Tnuli parnasa achas, prusa achas. Give me a slice of bread. V'lo hishkichu alav. Nobody pays attention to this ani. Dochak v'nichnas etzel melech. The ani pushes away in and goes straight to the king. Bo ani echad. Omar le, sorry. Adoni hamelech mikol suudo sha'asisa kosher beinecha litem li prusa achas. You're making such a great big suuda. You can't give me one slice of bread. Similarly over here, Chana, turns out HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Hashem of tzvakos of all the constellations. You, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the creator of the universe, cannot give me one child. The Pasuk says, and I'll read this also in its totality, Vatidor neder vatoyme Hashem tzvakos im ra'oi tir'eh be'oni amoscha v'zachartani v'lotishkach es amosecha v'nosata la'amoscha zera anoshim u'nasati v'lahashem kol yemei chayov u'more lo yala al roshoi. Just in translation, Chana says with a neder to HaKadosh Baruch Hu tzvakos, if you will see my affliction of your handservant, and you will remember and not forget your handservant, and you will give to your handservant a zera of anoshim, I will give this child to Hashem all of his days, and he shall have fear only from you on his head. Says the Gemara to explain. Imro tireh. She makes the following neder, if you will if you will see, with a double lashon. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amro Chana lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Riboinoi shel olam, im ro'oi mutav. If you will see, then very good. V'im lav tireh, and if not, then you shall see. Elech, I will go ve'estater bifnei Elkana ba'ali, and I will then misyachin myself with somebody else in front of my own husband, and then he will suspect me. And then he will have to then bring me to then drink the waters of the Mei Sota. What happens when a woman drinks the waters of the Mei Sota and she's innocent? She has the bracha of having children. So Chana was saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if need be, I will do this in order to then get a child. V'kivan shenivstat rami, and since I will then be alone with a man, mashki li Mei Sota, they're going to then give me the water of Sota to drink. V'ato oise taroscha plaster, and you're not going to make your Torah a sheker, and thereby you'll have to fill the words that's written in the Torah. Shneimar, v'nikso, v'nizru zera, and she will be clean. That means she'll be absolved, and she will then have zera. Says the Gemara, Hanicha lamanda omar im haisa akara nifked shapir. According to the opinion that says that she didn't have children, then she will then have children as a result of being innocent. Then it's very good. But there's a machlokes over here. Elamanda omar im haisa yoledes bitzar, yoledes berevach. But according to the opinion says that a woman who had difficulty having children, she'll have children more easily. Nekevos yoledes zecharim. She had females, she'll have zecharim. Shecharim yoledes levonim. She had dark children, she'll have lighter children. Kitzarim yoledes arukim. She had short children, she'll have long children. Ma'ika lemeim, we're going to say, according to that opinion, the Tanya, for it says in the Brisa, these opinions. It says in the Pasuk, like we quoted before, V'niksa v'nizra zera melamed she'im haisa akara nifkedes. Di Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel is of the opinion that if she is an akara, she's a barren woman, she'll have the brach of having children. Omar Rabbi Akiva imkein yelchu kol ha'akaros kulon v'yistatru v'zu shelo yikilkala nifkedes. Then all of the women who are barren are going to then cause themselves to then be alone with a man in order to be suspected. Then they'll have to go and drink the mayim, just as Chana is doing. And then they'll have then the brach of a child. Elamelamed says Rabbi Akiva she'im haisa yoledes bitzar, yoledes berevach, kitzarim yoledes arukim, shecharim yoledes levonim, echad yoledes shnayim. My imra tira, according to that opinion of Rabbi Akiva, what is she saying when she says imra tira? Dibra Torah kaloshim b'nei adam. It just means a double lashon, and therefore there's not to be daresh from those words to say that she was coming to say something more than that. Then the words say be'oni amosecha, in the affliction of your maidservant. Excuse me. V'lo tishkach es amasecho, and you shall not forget your maidservant. V'nosat la'amosecho, and you shall give your maidservant. It says the word ama, your maidservant, 3 times in this verse. On Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Chanino, Gimel amosois halolu lama. Why does it say that the word amosois, amoscho, your maidservant, 3 times? Omro Chana lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chana said the following: Ribono shel olam, shloisha bidkei misa barasa b'isha. There are 3 ways of checking a woman that if she transgresses these 3 things, she will die. Ve'amrei la shlosha divkei misa. There are those that say 3 things that will bring her closer to misa. And she said, Ve'eluhein, nida v'chala v'halokas haner. These 3 things that are miyucha, that are special for a woman, that if she's not careful with them, then she will die. Says Chanat HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Klum avarti al achas mehen. I didn't transgress not one of them, and therefore even the fact that I should be nanash by not having a child also should not be as well. The pasuk goes on to say, "V'nosat la'amoscha zera anoshim," and you shall give your maidservant zera anoshim. What is the stress over here of zera anoshim and not a zera of a zachar? My zera anoshim, asked the Gemara. Amarav gavra beguvrin, a man amongst the men, meaning a chashav a mensch, a very important man. Ushmuel Omar zera shel mosheach shnei anoshim. It's a zera child that will be mosheach 2 men. Who is that? Uman inhu. Who are these 2 men that he'll mosheach? Shol v'David. He'll put the anointed oil on the head of Shol and on the head of David. Rabbi Yochanan Omar zera sheshokul kishnei anoshim. The zera that is equal to 2 men. Uman inun. Who are these 2 men referring to? Moshe ve'Aaron. Shneimar Moshe ve'Aaron bekoyhanov u'Shmuel bekorei Shemoi. Now it doesn't mean that Shmuel is greater or even equal to Moshe and Aaron, but it means to say that he has the greatness, that he has both the leadership of Moshe, the Nevuah, and he also has the ability to serve in the Mikdash as a Kohen does, as does Aaron as well. V'Rabbanan Amrei zera anoshim, zera shemuvla bein anoshim. It means another drasha, 4th drasha, zera that is going to be absorbed amongst people. What does that mean? Explains the Gemara. Ki osar avdimi amar loy aroch v'loy gutz. Not going to be long, unusually tall, and not unusually short. V'loy kotem v'loy alom, and not small, meaning thin or unusually thick. V'loy tzachoy v'loy gichor, and not unusually white or pale, and not somebody who's unusually red. V'loy chacham v'loy tipesh, and not unusually wise, and not unusually foolish. And not unusually wise, because if a person is unusually wise, an exceptionally wise man is a wonderment amongst other people, causing people then to speak about him, and then the ayin hara could be sholet on him. Says the Gemara, quoting another verse, Ani ha'isha hanitzeves imcha bezeh. I am the woman that is standing with you. Says the Gemara, Amar Yeshua ben Levi, mikan she'aser leishev b'toich arba amos shel tefillah. From here we learn that it's also, since she is saying, while I was standing with you, meaning to say that you were also standing, you were careful not to sit down, b'toich my dalet amos. Therefore it's also, we learn out from here that a person cannot sit within the radius of dalet amos of the person who is davening. El hanar hazeh hispalalti, for this child I daven. What is the emphasis for this child? Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Elazar Shmuel, Mora halacha lifnei rabbi haya. Shmuel, he taught a halacha in front of his Rebbe, in front of Eli. Eli was the Gadol Hador. Shenemar says, Vayishchatu es hapar, vayaviu es hanar el Eli. they shechted the par and they brought the nar to Eli. Mishum devishachtu es hapar heviu anar el Eli, because they shechted the animal, the par, for a korban. That's what's a reason to bring the child to Eli. Elo mar lohen Eli. Rather, Eli said to them, Karo kohen lesi velishchoit. Call a kohen to come to be shoichet the animal for the korban. Chaznuhu Shmuel dahavu mahadre baser kohen lemishchot. Shmuel saw that they were tearing and they're looking for a kohen in order to then bring the kohen to be shoichet the animal. Omar lehu lama lechu lahadui baser kohen lemishchat. Why do you have to go after a kohen to shech the animal for the korban? Shechita bezar kshera. It's the halacha is that a shechita bezar, even a non-kohen, can shech the animal. Aisu lekamei de Eli. They brought Shmuel before Eli. Omar le menolacha. Eli said to Shmuel, "Where do you know this halacha?" Omar le miksi v'shochat hakohen. Does it say that the kohen will shecht? V'hikrivu hakohanim ksiv. It says that the kohen will bring. Mikabola ve'elech mitzvahs kehuna. Only after the Kabbalah is there a requirement for the kohen to be mekabel and do the halicha and then the sprinkling of the blood. But the shechita itself, not. Mikan the shechita, the ksheira bazar. A non-kohen can, yes, shoichet the animal. Omar le mi'ema shaper ka'amris. He says, what you said is correct, Eli says to Shmuel. However, mihu, mora halacha b'fnei rabcha at. But you taught a halacha in front of your master, in front of your Rebbe. The kolach mara halacha b'fnei rabbi chayev misa. Says the Gemara, Asya Chana the kotzavcha kamei. Chana subsequently came and she screamed in front of Eli. Ani ha'isha hanitzebes imcho bazeh. Omar lo, he said to her, Shivki li the anishe u'ba'ina rachme v'yavi loch rabba minei. Leave me and let me punish this child, and I'll daven that you should have another child greater than him. Says Chana Amrulei, Al Nara Hazeh his palalti. On this child I davened, and therefore I don't want you to daven for somebody else. I want this child to stay alive and be the child that I devote to the service of Hashem. Another verse, Chanehi medaberes aliba. Omarav Eloza mishum Rabbi Yosi ben Zimro al iske liba. She was davening on the iske of her lave. Omra lefonov, she said the following: Ribono shel olam, kol mashe barasa biisha, loy barasa davar echad levatala. Whatever you made for a woman, not one of those things is unnecessary. Einayim lirois, veoznayim lishmoya. Choitem lahariach, pe ledaber, yodayim la'asois bohem malocha, raglayim lahalech bohen, dadim lahanik bohen. Dadim halolu, this chest that you gave me, the breast that you gave me, shenotzata alibi, lama. Why did you give them to me? They also have a purpose. Lo lahanik bohem, not to nurse a child. Ten li ben ve'anik bohen. Give me a child and I will nurse him. Says the Gemara, another statement in the name of Rabbi Elazar Mishum Rabbi Yosi ben Zimra, unrelated to the whole issue that we've been discussing until now. Kol hayoyshev b'tainis b'Shabbos. All who sit and are misane a tainis on Shabbos, karin loy gzardino shel shivim shana. They rip up a decree of 70 years, a full lifetime. That means that if a person is going to then misane a tainis on Shabbos, where there's a time when everybody's rejoicing and eating better foods and drinking better drinks, and this person is doing tshuva and not eating on Shabbos, then the koyach of that tshuva and that tainis allows him to be goizer a gzardin of shivim shana. Says the Gemara, Va'afa Pikei, nonetheless, Chayzrin v'nifroim mimenu din Oineg Shabbos. Nonetheless, he's going to be paid with some sort of chet by not eating on Shabbos and desisting from the mitzvah of Oineg Shabbos. Ask the Gemara, my takante, what is the remedy for such a thing? Omar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, leisev tanisa letanisa. He should make an additional tainis on the tainis that he did on that Shabbos. Either lechatchila, the day after, on Yom Rishon, 2 days consecutively. If he is not strong enough to do that, then he can choose a different day to misana a tainis in order to mechaper on the tainis that he made on Shabbos Kodesh.